You're not wearing a watch. You're not wearing a watch. Hee.
Thank you, buddy. Hello there, heroes! I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Power Rangers Hyperforce Session review, and happy Thanksgiving! You might notice that my surroundings are a little bit different today. As I said, it is Thanksgiving, and I'm doing some cooking, so I'm kind of multitasking here. I have an honest-to-goodness chicken roasting inside of this oven, and at some point during this video, this timer is going to go off, and I'm going to need to check on it. The Ninja Steel Rangers may have had this holiday weekend off, but the Hyperforce Rangers work on Tuesdays, so it was business as usual. In the spirit of giving that is a part of this holiday's very name, HyperRPG promised to donate a portion of the proceeds from donations and power-ups and things of that nature to the Halo Foundation, helping arts liberate orphans. In turn, we were promised a far more intense, battle-heavy session for these Rangers to make those power-ups necessary. So in the cards, for the Hyperforce Rangers were serious battles, scary monsters, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of heavy metal. Let's take a look at the 5th session of Hyperforce, The Last Shiburai. Alpha tells the Rangers that while they were in Rome, Okay, wait, time out actually. That brings up something that I did want to talk about. I'm giving up on the whole pronoun game with Alpha. Not even Malika herself is actually sure what the right pronouns are to use. I've decided to just refer to Alpha with masculine pronouns, he, him, his, because Alpha has always struck me throughout the show's history as a boy, as male. And I know that he's gender neutral, so technically it would be the best pronoun, but it just feels rude for some reason. Anyway, he tells the Rangers that he has perfected the algorithm he uses to track timeline anomalies. He says that the Rangers have 3 hours to stop Scorpina from disappearing from history, which, as a reminder, could create major changes in the timeline. The time ship is still in really bad shape, but Vesper promises to do her best to try and fix it. Eddie says he can help her out, and Marv actually also wants to come along so he can start learning the technology of the time ship. Vesper says that she works best alone, so Marv can go with Eddie. However, Chloe says that she needs some girl talk with Vesper, so the two of them head down to the engine room, while Marv and Eddie actually just stay right there in the command center, with Jack also there scanning the weapon systems. In the engine room, Chloe makes a big admission to Vesper. She's actually really scared. The happy-go-lucky, burritos, rainbows, sprinkles, clouds personality is a shield. Chloe feels like anyone she's gotten really close to in the past, she's ended up losing. Vesper says she doesn't really know a whole lot about relationships with people, but even she has realized that this team is now a family and that they're all there for each other. Chloe says that this big bunch of weirdos can do this. Meanwhile, the guys are piecing back cables and consoles and trying to patch things back together, and Jack realizes that the problem lies in the crystalline matrix fuses. Alpha says that the problem with those fuses is that they're gone. They were completely blasted and destroyed in the attack. Marv mentions how Aisha's Griffin Zord runs on Yellow Ranger energy and wonders if that's something they can do here. Eddie takes this idea and runs with it, saying they wouldn't even need the full power that a Zord would have, just a smaller Ranger energy generator that could power the time ship. Marv is feeling really creative at this point and even suggests kind of small personal time travel devices that could allow the Rangers to jump through time without needing the time ship. Jack says something like that would require an incredible amount of energy, and Marv suggests tapping into the morphing grid. The girls, having had their heart-to-heart, are now chit-chatting about reintroducing sugary junk food to the year 3016, when Marv calls and checks on how things are going and talks about the ideas that they were having. Chloe says she just really wishes that they could call Jen in the year 3016 and see what she would suggest they do. Vesper says it may be possible to turn her future reading hologram generator into a transmitter, but it's going to take some time. But that gets interrupted from another call from Zordon. But this time, it's Zordon that needs their help. You see, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers are off-world. Again? I mean, the only way that makes sense to me in canon is if we jump forward to early 1995, the episode of Friend in Need, when the Rangers traveled to Edenoi. But 1 year forward seems like a pretty big time jump to not specifically mention. All I'm saying is that Aisha was there on Earth and assisted the Hyperforce Rangers. And then her team needed her back, presumably still on Earth. And now they're off-world again. I mean, if anybody knows how this makes sense in canon, feel free to let me know. Anyway, Lord Zedd has decided to take advantage of the situation, sending a monster down to Angel Grove Park. Eddie and Vesper decide to stay on the time ship and keep working on things, while the other Rangers go to confront it. They arrive in the park and see a monster covered head to toe in red samurai armor with the face of a Shiba Inu. That's a dog. By the by, it was Marv that accidentally coined a name for this monster, at one point calling it a Shiburai, or a Shiba Samurai. And by the by, Malika just so happens to have a Shiba Inu named Kaiju, who's often seen at Hyper RPG. Anyway, the monster is terrorizing civilians, so Marv helps to get most of them out of the area, especially helping an old woman with her dog, while Jack grabs a couple of bushes out of the ground and starts swinging them at the monster, distracting it. Chloe checks out the perimeter of the area and finds a little boy named Stevie who is separated from his parents. She gives him a piggyback ride back to his parents, who apparently look very much like Malika's parents. Marv calls up to the ship to check on things, but apparently it's still a work in progress. Jack starts fighting the monster with the shrubbery, but it catches one of them with its sai and throws it back at Jack, hitting for 4 damage. The Shiburai lunges at Marv and slices him, hitting for 8 damage. Jack isn't able to morph just yet, his energy is too low, so he does a very distracting cartwheel, managing to kick the monster for 8 damage. Chloe morphs.
Hyperforce! Ready? Power up!
And I was finally able to catch that morphing seems to use 4 energy. However, there may be a rule that you have to reach full energy, which is 6, before you can morph, because there were times I saw players at 5 energy, but they were saying that they couldn't morph, so I'm not really sure. Chloe uses a Super Hurricane Whirlwind attack, sliding right through the opening in the monster's weapons and hitting for 7 damage. The Shiburai lunges right back at her, hitting her right on the head for 6 damage and pissing her off. Marv sneaks around behind the monster, since attacking from a hidden position is a +1 bonus, and tackles it for 8 damage. Back over to the ship, Eddie and Vesper are still working on the technology there. Eddie tries to flirt with Vesper, but he's incredibly awkward at it and it doesn't go well. He asks her if that whole "this is my boyfriend" thing with Scorpina was an act, and she says, yeah, it was. And a really, really funny act, too. Ooh, ouch. We then cut away to the moon. Scenes like this are basically exposition just for the audience. The Rangers don't see this, and they can't act on any information learned during these sequences. Lord Zedd rises from his stone throne, looks down towards Earth, and sees his monster fighting a strange new team of Power Rangers. He sends down a team of Z-Putties to help. Did any of you think I might have been kidding? Nope. Let's take a look here. Oh, that looks nice. those down there. Oh, yeah. Just put another 30 minutes on there. Right. Where was I? Jack morphs.
Hyperforce! Yellow! Ready! Power up!
And uses his Ram Rage Rush attack, which, as it turns out, allows him to attack twice. I believe that's something that everybody has missed up until this point. It's a good thing he realized this when he did, too, because his first attack misses, the monster dodges it, but he spins around and hits on the second try. At this point, Malika interjected that since the proceeds from the power-ups were going to charity this time around, in this session she was going to allow the Rangers to use power-ups to defend themselves in their defense roles, meaning they'd have a better chance of blocking or defending attacks. Marv still isn't able to morph, so he hides behind a tree, again for that +1 bonus, and lunges at the Z-Putties, managing to take one out. Chloe, who is morphed if you remember, pulls her Hyperion bow and does a super shot, taking out 2 more. Another one tries to run over and take her bow from her, but she whips up the bottom of it, uppercutting it right on the chin and taking it out as well. Another of the Z-Putties runs at Marv to do a lunging kick, but overcompensates and falls flat on its back. Marv reacts very calmly to this. Shiburai turns to Jack, moving very lightly on its feet, and attacks him for 12 damage. And the first time this has happened in this battle system, the Rangers actually forgot to include Malika in the Popcorn Initiative, so she took the last turn of this round and got the first turn of the next round, having a Z-Putty try to headbutt Marv. However, it misses badly. Shiburai is part of Malika's battle group, so it gets to go again as well, lunging at Chloe and trying to hit her on the head again. But Chloe's not about that life anymore, so she sidesweeps the monster away. Back on the ship, Eddie and Vesper think they've got everything set up with the transmitter and decide to give it a try. However, while it will record, it won't recognize any sort of saving media, so nothing actually happens. Shiburai runs at Marv with both swords swinging wildly. Marv tries to defend himself, but still ends up taking 5 damage. Jack pulls out his Creus hammer and does a super swing, hitting the monster directly in the face, taking out one of its eyes. Chloe takes inspiration from this strategy, deciding to take out the other eye with her Eye of the Phoenix attack. She hits, and this monster is now a blind dog. But, as Jack reminds the Rangers, that's the most dangerous type. They call back up to the ship, but Eddie and Vesper still can't quite figure out what's going wrong. Meanwhile, we cut over to the Alliance Leader ship, another exposition scene for the audience. We see Scorpina and Velkanos, not Vulcanos, by the way, though I still can't find any fan art for him, watching the battle. Scorpina says this monster is basically getting its tail handed to it, and they should get in there to help out. However, the Alliance leader rises and says to remember that their mission is more important. Their ship is now almost ready to go, and besides, Lord Zedd's not the type to give up. Marv decides to go to the well one more time, trying a team-up attack with Chloe yet again. With charity support absolutely flooding the team with power-ups, Marv decides to just take the RNG out of the equation. He goes double super, he has Chloe go double super, and he throws in an ultra. So Chloe does a super scythe twirl, launching Marv at the monster, who does a super ultra Iapetus claws spin. Marv launches at the monster like a human twirling missile and hits for 21 damage. The monster collapses and explodes. So Lord Zedd does what Lord Zedd does in this kind of situation, tossing a grenade down to the monster, who grows giant-sized, and starts uprooting trees and throwing them around everywhere. This is kind of a bad situation for the Hyperforce Rangers, as Aisha isn't around with her Griffin Zord, and they don't have Zords of their own. Back on the ship, Eddie and Vesper can now see how desperate the situation is, literally, as they can see the giant monster from the time ship, but Vesper just cannot figure out what's wrong with the transmitter. Eddie decides to use a trick that his famous inventor father taught him, pulling out his Ranger Bud's wrench and giving the thing a good whack. It works, of course, just like a TV. You just gotta give it a little whack just right in the right spot. That'll usually work out for you. They record a very quick message. They don't have a lot of time. The ship is absolutely wrecked. There's a giant monster stomping around Angel Grove. Chloe says she's doing really well, by the way. Bye! They send the message and the clock keeps ticking down. But almost immediately, the transmitter starts vibrating and it plays what seems to be a recording. The message is from Abigail, the cadet from way back in the first session. She says that they have been working on the Rangers' problem for weeks now, and they finally have a solution ready. A payload is coming that's going to fix their ship, as well as their giant monster problem. Over the park, a gigantic time portal opens, and several large objects fall out of it. A giant black Cerberus, a big red lion, a pink phoenix, a blue serpent, and a yellow ram tank. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the Hyperzords. Eddie and Vesper high-five and hug, and each of the Rangers begin feeling an instinctive connection with their respective Zord. Oh, and by the way, while it was clear that the team had talked about their weapons at an earlier point, which led me to say that they didn't describe them quite as well as they could, in this case, Malika did not have them turn over their Zord cards until this moment, so the Rangers genuinely shared in their surprise with us. Eddie and Vesper morph.
Hyperforce! Blue! Ready! Power up!
Hyperforce! Black! Ready! Power up!
And all of the Rangers are teleported directly to their Zords. Vesper says that her Zord's name is Troy. Okay. Lord Zedd's image appears in the sky and he shakes his head angrily, disbelieving that there are new Power Rangers with new Zords. Shiburai grabs the Serpent Zord and starts shaking it around like a dog toy. Marv does a super clawed slashes attack and tears up the back of the monster for 8 damage. Jack fires some super mega missiles from his ram tank and hits the monster square in the chest for 12 damage. Vesper says that 3 heads are obviously better than 1, so she jumps in with her Cerberus Zord, which does a 3-headed shred attack, hitting the monster in the neck, chest, and shoulder, which finally makes it let go of Eddie's Zord. Now freed, Eddie has Chloe catch his Zord and pull it up into the air so he can do a snake rattle attack which drills into the monster's chest for 10 damage. Chloe flies up into the air after dropping Eddie's Zord off and gives the entire team a little speech, now admitting to everyone that she was really scared, but now she just loves this team as much as anyone she has ever cared about. Her Zord twirls back down into the monster, hitting for 10 damage before she pulls back up. Marv and Vesper decide to team up, Vesper's Zord grabbing the monster by the foot, and Marv's clawing into its back for 18 damage. Vesper decides to go ahead and finish this herself, twirling her Zord into a mace tail attack, which slams into the back of the Shiburai and indeed finishes the deal. But as the Rangers celebrate, the Alliance leader's ship decloaks and begins drawing in energy. Let's just give this another little check. An RPG review and a cooking show. What do you know? That looks really good. I just want to toss a little more moisture up here. Chloe would absolutely love this. Not very sweet, but still very tasty. I think Jack would like it too. Kind of wish I could have the Hyperforce Rangers over for Thanksgiving. Okay, a little bit more back there. There we go. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the oven and finish this review before I dig into this holiday meat. As the clock on Scorpina dwindles down to mere minutes, Chloe just tries firing at the Alliance leader's ship directly. However, her missiles dissolve just as they reach the ship. Alpha tells the Rangers that the time ship was built with these Zords in mind, and Jack infers that that means that the Zords can dock with it. They dock their Zords with the time ship and are pulled into the command center of the ship. The Zord's energy starts flowing through the ship and repairing components and fixing all of the damage. However, when that process is complete, the time ship still won't start. The Rangers decide to teleport back to their Zords and power them up, sending an intense wave of energy through everything. The leader's ship jumps into the Hyperforce, and as the Rangers' energy finishes flowing through the time ship, they jump into the Hyperforce as well, finally leaving Angel Grove. As they pursue the time ship inside the Hyperforce, they see it powering up again, drawing in energy, and now a large ball of energy forming behind the ship, which launches towards them as the ship launches forward. They try to raise shields, but the ball gets through them before they raise and hits the ship. The ship flies out of control, their chronometer starts going absolutely insane, and Alpha begins to malfunction. Worse, those malfunctions start to spread from Alpha to other parts of the ship, slowly shutting things down. Marv has the idea of having the Rangers teleport back to their Zords and trying the power-up maneuver again, but this time they hear explosions and short-circuiting. They return to the command center and find Alpha completely shut down. However, the rest of the ship does seem to be in better shape. Their ship is flung out of the Hyperforce and crashes into a warehouse, powering down momentarily but then regaining power. Eddie and Vesper decide to explore outside and start to leave the ship, but then they hear a knock on the ship from the outside. They open the doors and leave the ship and find a group of refugees looking haggard and worn, and M says that they're trying to get out of this place. But where are they trying to escape to? That would be the domed city of Corinth. Eddie runs back inside the ship and informs the other Rangers of the situation. None of them are familiar with Corinth, but they do all want to help. Marv asks what these people are running from, but all M will tell him is that their technology is falling apart before she walks away. The Rangers all follow a caravan of transports that are headed towards the city in the distance. And by the way, while they said at the beginning of this session that they were going to be donating a portion of the proceeds to the Halo Foundation, when the session ended, they announced that they were just going to go ahead and donate all of it, which ended up being, I think it was $470. It was somewhere in the $500 range. So kudos to them for that. Well, Hyperforce Session 5 was a return to form. Fantastic action and some wonderful character development as well. Chloe's fears, Eddie still trying to flirt with Vesper, and Marv growing as a leader. Shiburai was a fun and creative monster, and the circumstances of them ending up in Corinth are actually very believable in canon and should make this a very fun and exciting next session. And the Zords! The Hyperforce Rangers finally have Zords! Each of the Zords is very creative and seems powerful and strong. No Megazord yet, but we usually do get an individual Zord battle before we get the Megazord, so that is something that fits. One little touch that I really liked was the Rangers sending a message to the future and receiving a reply right away that was sent a few weeks after the message was received. It's that kind of playing with time travel that I don't even think Time Force got quite right. The score? Do you really even have to ask? The last Shiburai gets a 5 out of 5. Well, I gotta yank this bird out of the oven, make some mac and cheese and some gravy. So that's gonna do it for another Power Rangers Hyperforce Session review. Thank you folks so much as always for watching. Make sure to like the video by clicking that like button right down below. In the comments below, let me know what you thought of this session of Hyperforce as well as my review of it. And Thumpers, always glad to hear from you. Make sure to subscribe to the channel to see all of my videos and ring that bell, get your notifications set up so you get notified of whenever I post brand new videos like this Power Rangers Hyperforce Session review. And I'm going to go ahead and join in the spirit with Hyper RPG this time around. This is the point where I would normally ask for donations at my digital tip jar, but if you are feeling the mood of donating to my channel this time around, just go ahead and send a donation over to the Halo Foundation and I would greatly appreciate that. Until next time, heroes, have a happy Thanksgiving, and may the power protect you, and go Hyperforce. Helping arts liberate see, that take was going off the rails, and then I was like, I just sensed, I was like, the dog's gonna come back and bang on the door. Halo Foundation, helping arts liberate orphans. The ninja still, in order to make some hyper RPG in the very arts. Alpha tells the Rangers that while they were in Rome, I've decided to go ahead and just give up on the whole questionable pronoun game with Alpha. I'm just gonna go ahead and forget something that I was gonna say. Alpha tells the Rangers that while they were in Rome, so Eddie can go with Marv. But that seems like a really long time to jump forward, and I don't have this take memorized. And hitting for damage. Marv sneaks around. I did it again, Marv! Chloe, who is morphed, remember, uses Shiburai turns to Jack, moving very lightly on its feet, and attacks him for 12 damage. And for the first time this has happened, Shiburai is part of Malika's battle group, so he gets to go. Chloe takes inspiration from this strategy, Chloe takes inspiration from this strategy and uses. However, her Zord's missiles dissolve as they reach it. And by the by, something that I really liked was the Rangers receiving a reply to a message right away that I don't even am saying that right.